The octopus is easy to overlook. No bones, no shell. At first glance, it doesn't seem extraordinary, but look closer. 3 hearts, blue blood, arms that sense and respond on their own. The octopus is not just unusual, it is the product of a long, separate history of life on Earth, and the more we learn about it, the more surprising it becomes. Let's take a closer look, one fact at a time. An octopus has 3 hearts working in steady rhythm inside its body. 2 of these hearts move blood only through the gills, where oxygen passes from seawater into the bloodstream. The 3rd heart sends that oxygenated blood to the rest of the body, to the muscles, organs, and tissues the octopus depends on for movement and function. When an octopus swims by pushing water through its siphon, the main heart slows under the effort, which makes sustained swimming physically costly. For this reason, octopuses spend most of their time crawling along the seafloor, using their arms to move carefully across rocks and sand. This 3-heart system supports octopus life across a wide range of marine environments: reef systems, tide pools, deep coastal shelves, and rocky crevices. It works alongside a copper-based blood chemistry that requires more pumping pressure than iron-based blood to move oxygen efficiently through the body. The hearts maintain a continuous pulse, adjusting with activity, but never stopping. Each contraction moves blood through narrow vessels and wider chambers, quietly sustaining every part of the soft body. The system is functional, unhurried, and has remained largely unchanged for hundreds of millions of years. Blue blood moves through its vessels. This happens because octopuses use copper-based protein to carry oxygen through the body instead of the iron-based protein that makes blood red. When this copper-containing protein binds to oxygen, it turns a deep blue color. When it releases that oxygen into the tissues, it becomes nearly colorless. The blood is constantly shifting between these 2 states as it moves through 3 hearts, an intricate network of vessels that reach every part of the animal's soft body. This oxygen system is especially effective in cold, low-oxygen water. It allows the octopus to remain active in deep or dim environments where oxygen levels are limited, and many animals would struggle to function. In warmer water, however, this system becomes less efficient, which is one reason octopuses are more frequently found in cooler seas rather than very warm, shallow regions. For hundreds of millions of years, this blue blood has supported one of the most adaptable animals in the ocean. It flows through a body with no bones for protection, powers arms capable of remarkable flexibility and control, and sustains a nervous system that is complex despite the animal's relatively small size. The blue color is simply the result of chemistry, but the living system built around it, resilient, efficient, and finely tuned to its environment, is quietly extraordinary. 8 arms extend from its body, not tentacles. The difference is structural. Tentacles, found in animals like squid and cuttlefish, are long and thin with suckers only at the tip. Arms carry suckers along their entire length, from base to tip, making them capable of gripping, sensing, and responding at every point simultaneously. Every one of the octopus's 8 limbs works this way. Each arm has no bone inside it, no rigid structure at all. Instead, it is made almost entirely of muscle arranged in multiple directions, which allows it to bend, twist, shorten, lengthen, and stiffen at any point along its length. This gives each arm a nearly unlimited range of motion. It can squeeze into a narrow crevice, wrap around an uneven surface, or apply precise pressure to a single point without the rest of the arm moving at all. This kind of control comes from the arm itself. 2/3 of the octopus's neurons live in the arms, meaning each one processes information and responds locally without waiting for the brain to decide. 8 arms, each capable of independent thought and movement, have supported this animal across millions of years in nearly every ocean environment on Earth. It is a design that has never needed to change. No bones support its body. The only hard part of an octopus is its small, sharp beak. Everything else in its body is soft. There are no bones, no rigid frame inside, only muscle, skin, and organs working together to hold its shape. Because of this, the octopus can change its form at will, stretching wide one moment and narrowing the next. It can press its body flat against stone or pull itself thin enough to slip through openings far smaller than it appears to be. If the beak can pass through a gap, the rest of the body can follow. Without bones to support it, every movement depends on muscle alone. Each arm can bend, curl, stiffen, or reach in a different direction, adjusting to whatever surface it touches. One arm may explore a crevice while another anchors the body in place. This independence gives the octopus remarkable control as it moves across rock beds, sand, and reef. Its soft form also responds easily to water pressure and shifting currents. Instead of resisting the flow, it yields and adjusts. Muscles tighten and relax in careful patterns, shaping posture and motion from within. A creature built almost entirely of softness, able to reshape itself and move through the ocean with steady, quiet precision. At the center of the body, where all 8 arms meet, rests a small beak. Made of the same tough material found in insect shells, it curves like a parrot's beak with 2 parts that close neatly against one another. When the beak comes together, it can break through shells and other hard parts of its prey. Just behind it lies a ribbon-like strip covered in rows of tiny teeth. Though it resembles a tongue in shape and position, it works more like a textured conveyor. After the beak opens the prey, this strip grips the exposed flesh, drawing it inward and gently grinding it before it moves deeper into the body. One structure opens, the other prepares. Venom enters the process through glands that produce saliva. As the beak creates a wound, toxic saliva flows into it, slowing or stopping the prey's movement and making the meal easier to manage. In a few species, this venom is strong enough to affect humans. Across sandy stretches, rocky reefs, and dim ocean floors, this small, hardened center oversees every meal. The beak breaks through defenses. Venom quiets the struggle. The toothed strip then guides the food inward in a smooth, coordinated sequence. A single point of firmness within a body of softness, carrying far more function than its size suggests. Each sucker grips and tastes at the same time. Inside every sucker are tiny sensors that feel pressure and texture, and others that detect chemical traces in the water and on surfaces. When a sucker touches something, it is not only holding on, it is also sampling the world around it. Texture, resistance, and chemical traces are gathered all at once. Much of this information is handled directly within the arm itself. It does not always need to travel back to the brain before the arm reacts. The arm can adjust its grip or pull away on its own. A single arm carries hundreds of these suckers, each working independently. As an arm moves through a crevice, it is not simply feeling its way. It is tasting every surface it explores, building a detailed picture of its surroundings in real time. This network of sensors extends the octopus's awareness far beyond what its eyes can see. In dark water, inside narrow rock gaps, or beneath the sand, the suckers continue gathering information steadily and without pause. Across all 8 arms, hundreds of tiny sensing points remain active, turning every touch into immediate knowledge of the world around it. Oxygen passes directly through its skin. In some areas, the skin is thin enough to let oxygen from the surrounding water enter the blood without reaching the gills. This process works alongside the gills rather than replacing them, yet it contributes enough oxygen to matter. especially when the octopus is resting, hiding, or curled into a small enclosed space where water flow is limited. This ability gives the octopus a degree of respiratory flexibility that most animals do not have. When it presses its body flat against rock or sand, reducing water movement over the gills, the skin continues absorbing oxygen from whatever water remains in contact with it. The body maintains its oxygen supply through two separate systems working in tandem. Across cold, deep waters and shallow coastal reefs, where oxygen levels and currents fluctuate, this dual system allows the octopus to remain still for long periods without compromising its breathing. The skin does more than contain the body. It participates in keeping it alive, quietly and continuously, with every inch contributing to survival beneath the waves. The brain wraps around the throat. This unusual arrangement is a direct result of the body's layout. The esophagus, the tube carrying food from the beak to the stomach, passes straight through the center of the brain, so the brain developed around it rather than apart from it. The two share the same space, and each time the octopus eats, food moves through the middle of its brain. This layout places a natural limit on what the octopus can swallow. Food must be small enough to pass through the esophagus without pressing on the surrounding brain tissue. The tongue-like strip helps with this, breaking food into manageable pieces. In this way, the beak and tongue-like strip serve not only as feeding tools but also protecting the brain from damage with every meal. Despite this compact and intertwined configuration, the brain coordinates a remarkable nervous system. It manages sensory input from the eyes, skin, and arms, while allowing each arm to operate with a surprising degree of independence. In the octopus, the brain sits at the literal center of the body. Food passes through it. Arms extend outward from around it, and the rest of the animal radiates from this single compressed hub, organizing life itself around one small, extraordinary point. Color changes are powered by muscle, not chemical. Beneath the skin lie thousands of tiny pockets filled with natural color. Each pocket is surrounded by a ring of muscle fibers. When those muscles tighten, they pull the pocket outward, spreading the color over a wider area. When the muscles relax, the pocket shrinks and the color fades. These changes happen in milliseconds, powered entirely by the octopus's nervous system. The animal is constantly adjusting these pockets to create the patterns it wants, rather than relying on a passive process. Maintaining a color pattern is an active effort. To hold a design across its skin for even a few minutes, the octopus must keep thousands of these tiny pockets working simultaneously. Each movement of each pocket requires careful control, coordinated across the body. The process is continuous, precise, and entirely deliberate. Beneath the color pockets are two additional layers that add more visual effects. One layer reflects light to produce shimmering, and the other scatters light to create white areas. Working together, these three layers give the octopus the ability to create an astonishing range of colors, textures, and patterns that can change in the blink of an eye. The skin does more than change color, it performs it. Every shift, every pattern is actively controlled and coordinated by the nervous system, turning the body into a moving, living canvas. These layers of color, light reflection, and texture allow the octopus to communicate, hide, and dazzle, showing that its skin is not just covering, but an essential, responsive part of how it interacts with the world. Given a sealed, child-proof bottle, it experiments. Child-proof caps are made to resist the grip and problem-solving skills of young children, requiring pressure and turning in a precise combination to release the cap. When given a sealed bottle with food inside, the octopus works at it carefully, testing how hard it is, adjusting its hold, and twisting until the cap finally comes off. It does not follow a fixed method. Instead, it experiments until it finds a solution. This kind of manipulation requires the octopus to keep a goal in mind while changing its approach based on what it feels and senses. The suckers gather touch and taste information from the surface, and the arms respond instantly, changing pressure and angle as needed. The brain manages multiple arms at the same time, adjusting the approach as the situation changes. What makes this remarkable is not the action itself, but what it shows about octopus intelligence. The animal is not acting on automatic behavior. It is figuring out a new problem and finding a solution through trial, adjustment, and persistence. With practice, octopuses complete the task faster, showing that they remember and apply what they learned rather than just acting on instinct. Individual octopuses show consistent personality differences that persist across time and situation. Some are bold, approaching new objects quickly, exploring unfamiliar environments without hesitation, and engaging directly with novel stimuli. Others are more cautious, retreating from the same stimuli, taking longer to investigate and keeping their distance from unfamiliar objects. These differences are not random fluctuations in behavior. They remain stable across repeated observations in different contexts and over the course of the animal's life. In controlled research settings, octopuses have been scored reliably on personality traits such as activity level, reactivity, and avoidance behavior. These scores stay consistent across sessions separated by weeks, suggesting that the differences reflect something stable within each animal's nervous system rather than momentary behavioral states. This is particularly striking because personality, consistent individual behavioral differences, was long thought to require social complexity. Octopuses are largely solitary. They do not learn social roles, form hierarchies, or modify behavior based on group membership. Yet each octopus develops its own characteristic tendencies independent of social context. The neural mechanisms driving these differences are not yet fully understood. Still, the variations are consistent enough to be measured, predicted, and distinguished from one individual to the next, revealing that even solitary creatures can carry distinct, persistent behavioral signatures. By watching another perform a task, it learns. In laboratory conditions, an octopus observing a trained octopus consistently choosing one option over another will, when given the same choice, select the option it saw being chosen, even without touching the objects, receiving any reward, or being guided in any way. It watched and it learned. This ability, called observational learning, requires the observer to attend closely to another octopus's behavior, extract relevant information, and apply it to its own subsequent actions. It is a cognitively demanding process and one that is remarkable in an animal as largely solitary as the octopus. Most animals that demonstrate observational learning do so within social contexts, young animals watching parents or individuals learning from group members. The octopus has no prolonged social bonds, no parental guidance after hatching, and spends the majority of its life alone. Yet, it can watch another octopus once and adjust its behavior, learning from others without ever being part of a group. This shows that the octopus can extract knowledge from its environment and from other octopuses independently, demonstrating intelligence that is flexible, attentive, and entirely self-directed. Researchers observing animals in tanks documented behavior they believe qualifies as play. Play is repeated activity that does not immediately support survival. In these observations, individuals were seen releasing objects into a moving current and catching them as they drifted back. There was no food reward and no clear external motivation. The same individuals repeated this behavior across multiple sessions, suggesting it was intentional rather than accidental. This matters because play is usually associated with animals that develop slowly, live in social groups, and show flexible thinking. most often mammals and birds. With a short lifespan and largely solitary life, this species fits none of those patterns. Yet, the behavior still appears. One way to understand it is as action beyond immediate survival needs, interaction for its own sake. Whether enjoyment is involved remains unknown, but the behavior matches the standard signs used to identify play in other animals. It is a subtle but meaningful indication of a mind more complex than many once assumed for creatures without a backbone. Male octopuses die after mating. Females die after their eggs hatch. In males, death is tied to reproduction through a chemical process. After mating, the male stops eating and gradually weakens. His body begins to break down internally, tissues deteriorating as his biological systems shut down. Reproduction is his final act, and his body has no energy left to survive afterward. For females, the process begins when she lays her eggs. From that moment, she stops eating and devotes all her remaining energy to caring for the eggs, keeping them clean, moving water over them, and protecting them from predators. She does not leave. She does not feed. She stays with the eggs until they hatch, and then her life ends. Her death is not incidental. It is the final stage of reproduction itself. The energy in her body is fully spent on guarding and maintaining the eggs, and the eventual completion of her life marks the end of that effort. In species with longer egg development, this continuous attention can stretch for months. Giant Pacific octopus females have been recorded guarding their eggs for over 4 years without eating, their bodies gradually deteriorating while the eggs develop. The adult life of an octopus, reproduction and death, unfolds as a single connected sequence. Each stage leads directly into the next, a continuous cycle in which the final act is fully devoted to ensuring the next generation has the best chance to survive. A female giant Pacific octopus can lay up to 100,000 eggs at once. Each egg is tiny, about the size of a grain of rice, and laid in strands that she carefully attaches to the ceiling or walls of her den. She arranges them meticulously and spends the rest of her life tending them. The eggs develop slowly, sometimes over 4 to 7 months depending on water temperature, while her body gradually deteriorates throughout this period. Of the 100,000 eggs laid, the vast majority will not survive to adulthood. Predators, water conditions, and competition reduce the population dramatically in the first days and weeks after hatching. The 100,000 eggs are not a promise of 100,000 survivors. They are the species' response to these losses, producing enough offspring that even a small fraction reaching maturity is enough to sustain the population. This reproductive strategy, investing everything in one massive batch of eggs, rather than reproducing repeatedly over a longer life, reflects the octopus's short lifespan and single reproductive event. There is no second chance, no following season. One batch, one final act, every bit of her energy, every moment of her life given entirely to this single act of creating the next generation. No blind spot interrupts its vision. In animals with a backbone like fish, birds, reptiles, and mammals, the nerve that sends visual information to the brain passes through the back of the light-sensitive layer in the eye. This creates a tiny area where light cannot be detected, a blind spot. The brain automatically fills in the missing information, so we usually do not notice it, but the gap is real. The octopus eye is different. Its light-sensitive cells face the incoming light, while the nerve fibers leave from behind the layer rather than passing through it. The result is a completely uninterrupted surface. Every point in the octopus's view is covered by actual light-sensitive cells gathering real visual information, with no area left blank and no need for the brain to fill anything in. This difference reflects how the two types of eyes form. In animals with a backbone, the light-sensitive layer grows outward from the brain. In octopuses, it develops from a layer of skin that folds inward. The direction of that original fold determines whether the cells face the light directly and whether a blind spot exists. A subtle change made in the earliest stages of development produces a striking result. One group with a small gap in vision and another with a continuous, unbroken field of sight. In captivity, these animals regularly explore and manipulate the equipment designed to contain them. They dismantle filtration components, block circulation pipes, interfere with water flow systems, and even remove sensors from tank walls. They do this not through brute force, but through careful, methodical investigation of every accessible surface and mechanism. A component that appears firmly fixed will be tested, worked at, and eventually moved if the octopus decides it can be. Aquarium staff often return in the morning to find systems partially disassembled by animals that seemed settled the night before. Octopuses also leave their tanks entirely. They can navigate over the edges of open enclosures, cross the floor, and even appear in adjacent tanks, sometimes having eaten other animals along the way. These escapes are deliberate, not accidental. The octopus identifies the boundaries of its enclosure, locates an exit, and moves through it with purpose. This behavior mirrors the same investigative drive the animal uses in the wild, testing surfaces, discovering what can be moved or opened, and acting on that information. In the ocean, this leads to efficient hunting and exploration. In captivity, it can result in infrastructure failures. The octopus is not mischievous. It is simply doing what it has always done, applying its curiosity and intelligence to a world full of objects it has never seen before. All of them produce venom, but only a few can harm humans. The most dangerous is the blue-ringed octopus, a tiny animal rarely larger than a human hand, found across the Indo-Pacific. Its bite contains a substance that stops nerves from sending signals, causing muscles to stop moving and making breathing impossible. What makes this octopus particularly risky is the bite itself, often painless and leaving no visible mark. A person may not notice until their body starts to feel numb, their limbs become paralyzed, and breathing becomes difficult. At that point, urgent medical help is required. The bright blue rings that give the animal its name are not always visible. They only appear when the octopus feels threatened, flashing vivid blue against its pale skin. When resting and calm, the colors fade, making it easy to overlook. Most incidents happen when people handle the animal without realizing what it is. The danger does not come from the octopus seeking contact, but from underestimating a small, seemingly harmless creature that carries deadly power in a bite that may go unnoticed until it's too late. 2/3 of neurons do not reside in the brain. Neurons are the individual nerve cells that transmit information, allowing the body to sense, process, and respond to the world. In the octopus, these neurons are distributed throughout the arms, with each arm containing its own dense network of nerve tissue. This allows an arm to process information and generate responses independently. When an arm encounters an object, it does not simply send a signal to the brain and wait for instruction. Instead, it evaluates the situation locally and acts on its own. Often, the brain may never receive a detailed account of what the arm did or why. This arrangement makes the octopus nervous system fundamentally different from most animals. Rather than relying on a single central processor to manage all activity, the octopus operates as a distributed network. The brain oversees broader awareness and decision-making, while the arms handle immediate local responses without waiting for permission. The result is an animal whose intelligence is not confined to one place. It is spread across the entire body. Even when separated from the brain, an octopus arm can continue responding to what it senses for up to an hour, showing just how self-contained each arm's neural tissue really is. The arm does not need the brain to function in the short term. Across the full body, the majority of neural activity occurs not at the center but at the edges, distributed outward, close to the surface in direct and continuous contact with the environment. The octopus reminds us that intelligence doesn't have to look like us. It doesn't need bones or a long life. It only needs time and the ability to adjust when the world changes. For millions of years, it has done exactly that. It has survived shifting oceans, new predators, changing climates, not by becoming bigger or stronger, but by becoming flexible, by learning, by responding. And maybe that's the final lesson. Intelligence is not a single shape. It is not one design. It is a process, the steady ability to meet the world as it is and find a way forward. The octopus does not shout its brilliance. It lives it. And with that quiet thought, sleep well. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too. Good night.